Welcome to the Introverted Misfit podcast with me, Caroline Smith, where we discuss topics related to the human experience of connection and communication with a slightly awkward introverted twist. In today's podcast episode, we are going to explore a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is embracing your femininity after a life of trying to hide it from the world. We're going to be talking about my own experience with embracing my feminine side, what femininity even means, and the 6 ways I believe you can completely embrace your feminine nature without letting others take advantage of it. Because there are some things to watch out for on this type of journey, especially when you're a late bloomer like I am. And I also have one bonus tip that I'm going to share towards the end. One thing I've noticed in my novice level expertise as a gardener is that when you plant something like tomatoes or cucumbers, the fruit doesn't come all at once. They mature at different times. Some fruit will be ready to harvest in a little over a month, and others won't even start to develop until 3 months into the growing season. In my case, I'm one of those fruits that was not ready until the last few days of summer. So much so that at the time that I'm sitting down to record this episode, I've managed to reach this age without even having my first kiss or my first boyfriend, if you can believe that. And the age that I am is 26. And I don't know, I don't know for certain if that's out of the ordinary, especially for my generation. So do me a favor and comment, when did you have your first kiss so that I know if I'm, the only one who's late to the party or if there are other people, other women out there who are like me. But I have a pretty solid justification for why my life has turned out this way. And I'm sure if you've clicked on this podcast episode, you will be able to relate to at least some parts, if not all parts of my story. So the justification that I have is that I'm not really quote unquote normal, and I wasn't a normal girl growing up. I've talked a lot about my experience with being on the autism spectrum and the resulting social anxiety that my disorder caused me for many years, but I've never really talked about it in relation to my experience specifically as a woman. For a long time, I hated my female body. And the reason that I hated it was because, as someone who was simultaneously autistic and struggled with social anxiety, the one thing that I was constantly trying to avoid was attention. And yet, the one part of me that was getting, you know, it was getting me a lot of unwanted attention was my body, my female body. So, to compensate, I wore an extra large black jacket pretty much everywhere I went. It drove my mom crazy. That's how much I wore this jacket. And in fact, I remember being in my high school's marching band practice outside, and in the dead heat of summer on black pavement, I had on long pants and a black jacket, while everybody else was more comfortably dressed. This phase of completely covering every single feminine curve that I had lasted from middle school through my early college days, at which point I slowly started to venture out, even though it was still hard for me because I was still in the throes of um, battling my social anxiety. But in hindsight, I realized that amongst all of the mental chaos that I was going through, a common theme in my life was that I believed I was unworthy of even the smallest amount of attention from anybody, man or woman. And as a result, that's how I moved through the world. I even remember in my senior year of high school, I got asked to prom, which was a first for me. And because I had not really gotten attention from boys, at all at this point, because again, I was intentionally avoiding any kind of social interaction. I automatically thought that this boy had to be joking or pranking me or something. So I was actually kind of mean in my response to him when I turned him down and told him no, because I was just really convinced that he could not be serious. Because again, I didn't think that I was worth any kind of attention. That's how low my self esteem was at that point. And what hurt my self esteem even more, even past high school into my college days, was watching just how easily other girls my age could talk to and flirt with boys. And not even just that, just the way that they were able to make friendships so easily and just make connections with other girls. And I just couldn't do that, partly because of my lack of confidence and partly because of my social struggles due to having autism. But now that I'm mostly on the other side of being afraid of my feminine side, I think I've got some really useful advice for you in regards to becoming more confident in all aspects of your feminine nature. Especially if you've resonated with any part of my story thus far. So let's start by defining what it means to be feminine. Femininity refers to the qualities regarded as characteristic of women. And I think a lot of people can use the more superficial gender roles of women to define this term. So like cleaning a house or cooking or something like that, things that are more societal norms. But what I'm really talking about is those biological factors that are hardwired into us that make us different from men, mainly because of the hormonal differences in our physiological makeup. So I'm talking about our bodies, the natural sway of our hips, our more loving and nurturing ways, and our propensity towards being emotionally attuned to others. Unless, of course, you're autistic like me, and then, I had to learn that last part about emotional attunement, but that's a different story. Those qualities are what help us to attract a mate if we want, form strong communities with each other, be compassionate, and raise the next generation of humans, starting from when they are extremely fragile babies who need all of that very feminine, sensitive, nurturing care. That's what femininity is. It's a loving and a nurturing entity. And of course, that does not mean that you will be that way 100% of the time, because there are some situations in life circumstances where, that's not going to always be the case. Or in some cases, you might actually have to intentionally pull back on giving people access to that side of you. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, how do we get comfortable leaning into that side of us when we have been stifling it for so long? That's a bigger question because based on your own unique experiences and realities, that is not going to be an overnight process. But I'm going to give you the basic formula in 6 steps plus one bonus step that I have. Number one, don't try to fake being someone that you're not. Just be yourself. If you feel like you're faking a certain kind of feminine archetype that's completely out of character for you, it's most likely going to be uncomfortable for you, and then that discomfort is going to be noticeable in other people. And I'm going to give you a real life example of this. So the summer before my freshman year of college, I was a part of a 12-week summer camp at a university that I attended, and a few days into that camp, I was already starting to see the different, relationships forming with some of the boys and the girls that were there. But I saw one of the girls in this camp at a pool party rubbing this guy's ear, like very sensually. And this was only a couple of days into the camp. So I know for a fact I could not do something like that. Even even as confident as I am now, I couldn't do that because that's completely out of my personality. That's out of character for me. And I would feel really awkward doing that. Um, I'm just not that straightforward and bold. And so I'm saying that I don't want you to feel like you have to portray being something that you're not. So you don't have to portray being this really sultry, seductress woman if that's not you. if that's not comfortable for you. You can just be who you naturally are, and someone is going to gravitate towards that. So if you're kind of quirky and awkward, like I definitely am, then that can be attractive to the right man. Or if you're more of a lover girl, or maybe you're more of a ladylike woman, whatever it is, your style of femininity will be perfect for the right person. So don't try to fake being someone that you're not. Number two, don't be scared of the attention that you get. Embrace it. You don't have to be arrogant about it, but I am saying just be confident in yourself and don't shy away from it. So I said earlier in this episode that I would wear a black jacket everywhere I went to repel attention from me. And yes, it was hiding my physical body, but I also like to think that that jacket was symbolically hiding my entire feminine aura. And when I took the physical and the symbolic jacket off, people started to notice. My family noticed, men noticed, women noticed, a lot of people noticed. And because my sense of self-worth inside was beginning to show outwardly in the way that I walked through the world, and other people could see that. So when you're coming from a place of having to hide that confidence, like you likely have if you're a late bloomer, the attention that you start to get might be a little uncomfortable at first, but you just have to, keep doing it and learn to embrace it rather than being embarrassed by it. And it will get easier as you keep doing it. Number three, don't fall into the comparison trap. And this one is a hard one, particularly because of how big social media is nowadays. It seems like everyone is on it nearly all the time, and you can see perfectly airbrushed photos of people, of other women that you may be jealous of, and you can see what people are doing in their lives and how they're progressing, and it can be really hard to not compare what they're doing to what you're doing. And as women who are late bloomers, we have pretty much already spent a large portion of our lives comparing ourselves to others. So whether it's a girl whose hair is longer and prettier than yours, or maybe you think someone has a prettier face than yours, or someone is skinnier than you, or you're jealous of how much attention someone else gets. Those same habits of comparison, I find, are often roadblocks as we are coming out of our shells. And I'm telling you from personal experience that those kind of habits don't serve anyone, especially not you. What I've learned is that just because someone else is attractive or has some qualities that you wish you had, that does not take away from your inward and outward beauty. I know it doesn't feel that way right now, especially if you were like me, someone who barely got any attention growing up, but it's true. Will there be more attractive people out there? Yes. But that has nothing to do with you as an individual. The best version of yourself is your beauty standard. So find more meaningful things to do rather than just sitting around and comparing yourselves to others, especially if you're comparing yourself on very superficial things. It's just not going to be good for you overall to be doing that. Number four, don't be discouraged by rejection or perceived rejection. Everybody has to face rejection in one way or another, in our romantic lives, in the workplace, in your family, and in other sectors of life. It might be a friendship that didn't work out and you didn't know if it was something that you did or not. It might be a romantic interest that wasn't as interested in you as you thought they were, or wasn't as interested in you as you were interested in them. It might be a promotion that you didn't get that you thought you deserved. Whatever the situation is, you cannot let those moments completely kill your self-esteem because that does not help anyone, especially not you. That kind of attitude is not going to help you attract the kind of people that you want in your life. Instead, I like to think of rejection as a learning opportunity. So maybe you could learn something about how you need to operate and behave moving forward to get a better outcome. You could learn that you need to change the type of men or the type of friends that you're giving your time and energy to. You could learn that sometimes people are just aren't compatible. And, sometimes it's not much deeper than that, and it's just time to move on. And I'm not saying that rejection is not going to hurt, because it definitely um, can be a sting to your self-esteem for a while. But once you get over it and you see that the world didn't end and there's a lot more life to live out there, it gets easier and easier. Number 5, stop ruminating and feeling bad about being a late bloomer. So, regarding our femininity, we can sometimes sulk and feel bad about all of the years that we've lost by hiding our feminine nature from the world. But take it from me, ruminating about the past is a surefire way to stay in a demotivated and depressed state for a long time, much longer than you need to, and much longer than is healthy for you to. So I was talking to my sister and her husband about this issue of me being a late bloomer probably about a year ago. And my brother-in-law told me something that I think you'll find really helpful. And he told me something along the lines of, your life has turned out exactly the way you needed it to for you and your circumstances. And I think that's a great outlook to have, because it's true. This is your life, not someone else's. So you can't keep expecting it to turn out like someone else's, and especially not on the same timeline as someone else's, because everyone is different. We all came from different circumstances. We all had different things happen to us in the past. We've all made different mistakes that we wish we could go back and change. Um, and all of that has led to exactly where we are today in our individual journeys. And you can't change that. But you can make decisions today that will give you a chance at a better future where you can be your most confident self. Number 6, this one is more of a word of caution to you as you're entering this journey of being a newly confident woman. And it's know when to withdraw your feminine energy from people who don't value it. And I'm telling you this because as a late bloomer, we are often very vulnerable to certain situations that a lot of other women have already encountered. And so they already know how to handle it, whereas we don't, because we've never encountered it before. And I said earlier that the strengths in your feminine energy are very powerful. And the strength lies in your loving and nurturing and caring nature and abilities. But that also makes it much easier for others to take advantage of that part of you if you're not careful. And really, I'm talking about both men and women. Both men and women are capable of um, taking advantage of these qualities in you. So you have to know how to pull the reins in when you realize that you are giving the wrong people access to that side of you. And number one, because you're going to get your feelings hurt very badly. And number two, you can find yourself in quite the predicament if you're not really careful about this tip. I've met many women who, because of their low self-worth and low self-esteem, combined with them being way too freely giving of themselves, they are in very miserable situations right now. Situations that a lot of times are really hard to get out of once you've been in them for a while. And there's another aspect to this point that I want to tell you about. Once something becomes too readily available, in general, this isn't just about femininity, I'm just talking about in general. If something becomes too readily available for people, it kind of loses its bargaining power on the market, if that's how you want to put it. So basically, too many people get free access to your feminine qualities. And I'm not just talking about physical, I'm talking about the whole package, the whole nurturing and caring package. it's going to become objectively less valued by others because there's an excess amount of it to go around at no cost. So that's something else to think about. And number 7, which is my bonus tip, dress for success. And that means dressing in a way that makes you feel beautiful both inside and out so that other people can see the level of care that you have for yourself, the level of care and respect that you have for yourself. And this also means dressing for the type of attention you want from people. So, from romantic interests and from just people in general. And I wanted to throw this point in because I remember when I was still in the middle of having severe social anxiety, I would sometimes purposefully dress really badly so that no one would want to talk to me when I was in public. So I wouldn't do my hair, or I would wear like some sort of hat. Even if it was 90 degrees outside, I would wear like a toboggan or something. And I would wear extremely baggy clothing that did not flatter me at all. And I definitely got what I wanted because usually no one would try to talk to me, because I looked like I looked very disheveled. I looked like I really did not want anyone to come close to me. But I was also doing myself a disservice because I didn't feel good about how I looked. And when I did finally start to dress like I cared about myself, I got much different attention and treatment than what I previously experienced from both men and women. And I think that's because people could tell that I respected myself by the way that I dressed. Um, and so, because of that, they were more inclined to give me respect. Whereas before, if I walked out of the house looking kind of raggedy, I was not happy with the kind of attention that I got, mainly from the attention that I got from types of men, which is a big one, especially if you're one of those women who's, um, still on the market for finding Mr. Right. So it's almost like because I was dressing really sloppy, they thought that I must be easy, I guess. And all of that really changed when I started dressing like I cared about myself. It was completely different. It was like night and day. And by the way, that does not mean that you need to wear heels and a dress just to go to the grocery store, unless you want to. But it does mean that you should just look put together as you can. So whether you're wearing casual loungewear or gym clothes or jeans and a t-shirt, or anything. Just dress like you take good care of yourself and that dress like you care about yourself, and also dress for the type of attention that you want from people in general. So those were my 6 tips, including the 7th one, which was a bonus tip that I decided to throw in. And if you're a woman who is just beginning your journey to becoming more confident in yourself, I know exactly how scary and vulnerable this time in your life can be. But I promise, once you do build your confidence, and not only your feminine qualities, but also your general qualities as a person, you will be able to take on the world without fear. And you'll be one huge step closer to finding the right guy for you, if that's your ultimate goal. So make sure to check the description of this podcast episode to find out how you can work with me one-on-one so that I can assist you on your journey to becoming a confident version of yourself, specifically as an introverted woman. And that includes my Power Hour coaching sessions if you just need a quick hour to talk about something more specific with me. And that also includes my signature 12-week program, Communicate with Quiet Confidence, where you'll learn to be a socially confident introvert without having to act like an extrovert. Again, you can find all of that information using the links that I provided in the description, or you can just go to theintrovertedmisfit.com and you can find everything you need to know there. That's all for today's episode. As always, if you enjoyed this talk, please don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button, leave a review and or a comment, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts from. and share this podcast episode with a friend. Thanks for listening and have a great day.